Hello to everybody who may be watching this right now. My name is Matthew Oligin, and I am the Assistant Director of Admissions here at Faulkner University. Don't feel like you got to memorize the name. It's a lot easier just to say Matt O, I promise. But I'm really, really glad I get to go ahead and maybe help talk about a conversation that is awkward sometimes, that is definitely intimidating, because there's a lot of factors when it comes to trying to find the right college. And probably the one that is the biggest on most families' minds is the financial aid part, making sure it is affordable for the student and for the family. And it makes sense. Honestly, with the way things are these days and how crazy the world is, it really makes sense to make sure that the value of your education really is a value. And that's what we want to dive into tonight. We want to go ahead and have a conversation about stacking your financial aid just as high as possible so your dream school doesn't have to just feel like a dream. It's a actual tangible goal for yourself. Now, that said, there are a lot of different aspects to it. In fact, some of the biggest things in life, the biggest challenges are always manageable when you could just break them down to smaller pieces. And we're going to do that. But before we do, there's about 3 things I want to point out too that we're going to do this evening. The first is right after the initial segment, we are also going to hear from one of our admissions counselors who is also a recent graduate of Faulkner, Victoria McDaniel. And we are going to go ahead and just kind of hear her thoughts about what she feels like made Faulkner a place to be at, worth being at. And so much so that she's willing to recruit other students to be here and have a similar experience. So looking forward to that segment towards the end of the evening. But also later on, we're going to have a special time with our Director of Financial Aid, Adam Donaldson. So we're going to go ahead and tackle some of those more intricate questions together. In fact, speaking of which, if you have any of your own, feel free to go ahead and leave some in the comments. We have one of our other counselors, Olivia McDaniel. Yes, there is a relation there. She's going to be answering some questions there in the chat box, and we want to go ahead and make sure we just answer as many as we can tonight. Now, all of that said, Adam's going to go ahead and give his 2 cents about those intricate questions, and really looking forward to that. Now, that's going to be an additional 10-minute segment this evening. Understand if y'all need to log off beforehand, no harm, no foul, but want to give you that opportunity. Last but not least, I want to make sure we kind of give you an idea about who we are as a university, as an institution. Faulkner is a Christian university, first and foremost, and we are very proud of that fact. And it is what makes us who we are. I have a humble opinion, and the opinion is this, that you could go to any university, and as long as you do the work, that you hustle, and you focus, you're going to be successful. It doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to be all right. But there does one little difference. And that's the Faulkner difference, in my humble opinion. And that is, why are you being successful? There are so many people these days who are being successful for selfish reasons because that's just their goal and that's what you got to do in life. But if we really are being Christians, may I challenge you to think about being successful for other folks? And that's what we're trying to do here at Faulkner. In fact, if you graduate, when you walk that stage and get that degree and pursue your career, you may be amazing at what you do. But if you don't go back to that mindset of being successful to help someone else, I think we failed you. I think we let you down if you left the school without that mindset. And I'm confident that our academic status is toe-to-toe with any other school here in Alabama or in the nation. I can't wait to introduce you to a variety of other professors throughout the year. The fact that you're interested in Faulkner is very humbling because I know you have choices. And I promise you, Faulkner is going to be one that stands out in so many different ways. But just as a quick example about going toe-to-toe, our education department, we get to boast 100% employment rate. And the same criteria that we follow is the one that every school in the state of Alabama has to follow. So when they graduate, they have to take the same test as any other school, big or small, but we get this huge, huge advantage. Our teachers here. Our teachers in a small class scenario where it's about 15-1 most of the time. And that means, just in case what the significance of that is that you get to go ahead and know your professors. You get to really interact with them in a way that you honestly wouldn't be able to do anywhere else. On top of that, you get to be invited to dinners. You get to have treats and cookies. And it might be dangerous. You're definitely going to get some weight gain here, but I promise you, it's going to be worth it as well. So our academic status really does go toe-to-toe with so many other schools. But at the same time, hey, Faulkner might be a perfect place, but is it affordable? And that's what we're going to dive into tonight. We're going to go ahead and have a conversation about putting together your financial aid package. And that's what we call it here at Faulkner. Your scholarship package is also known as a financial aid package. And calling on the youth minister past that I used to have, I'm going to go ahead and use some illustrations tonight. And the first one is this. Think of your financial aid balance as a tabletop. And most good tables are going to have 4 legs to stand on. And that's what we're going to stand on as well. We're going to have 4 conversations this evening. So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump into our presentation. And those sources of funding come down to federal, state, institution, and personal contribution. I'm going to go ahead and hide my big old head here. That way you could go ahead and appreciate the screen a little bit more. Oops, sorry about that. The guy cut off there for a minute. It doesn't quite work if you are just going to show your Alabama gear or your Auburn gear. This is a state grant available to all families when you present that you've been a resident here for at least a year. You need to provide a ID card. You need to provide maybe a purchase of a bill, some type of tax form as well, proving that you've been living in Alabama for some time. But here's the great thing about the Alabama State Grant. It's available for any resident here in Alabama. We have been estimating conservatively that this is going to be a $900 grant each year. However, the state gets to determine what that actual number is every year. It goes up, it goes down. 2 years ago, we estimated $900. It was actually $1,000 a year. Last year, we again estimated $900, but it ended up being $1,100. This is free money to you Alabama residents. This is only specifically for private institutions like Faulkner University. And so this is something that we want to make sure you get a hold of. This document is available come March. And let's be honest, the way state paperwork works, it's probably going to be more like April anyways. But we're going to go ahead and help you out, stay on top of all of this paperwork. In fact, let me kind of break away here about talking about the Faulkner difference again. So there are a lot of institutions, when it comes to the admissions office is only good to get you admitted. They help you get accepted, and then they say goodbye, and they push you down to the next department. It doesn't work like that here at Faulkner. We try to be a one-stop shop for you. We understand that it could be very intimidating, again, not knowing where to start. So you are going to be introduced to your admissions counselor. So for those of you in South Alabama and Florida, maybe it is a bad thing, but I don't think it is. I am your admissions counselor. And so I look forward to working with you guys and getting to know you. But let me give you a quick shout out to some of our other admissions counselors. Andreas de Torres, he is in North Alabama representing Birmingham and Huntsville area, specifically in those big cities, but the territory in between. To our east, we have Victoria McDaniel with Georgia and all those eastern states. To our west side in Georgia, we have her twin sister, Olivia McDaniel. And in the Tri-County area, we have both our director of admissions, Mike Horn, and a very new admissions counselor, Eli Porter, as well. We are going to be the faces you see the most, and we're going to be the voices for you here at Faulkner University. We want to go ahead and answer the questions you have, and if there is a question we don't know the answer to, we're going to take the time and we're going to figure it out together. When it comes to financial aid, while we do have a financial aid office that does so much work for our students, most of that work is behind the scenes. They do a great job of keeping track of the paperwork needed for your scholarships and your grants, whether they be from the school, whether they be from the state, or from the government itself, the federal government. Might not be the best example, but this is the best way I could probably present it to you. And that's going to think of scholarships like mail-in rebates. It is a great offer. You get to save a lot of money, but it only does you good if you follow up by turning in the paperwork that is needed. So from here on out, please kind of think of that philosophy for a moment. And it begins with the state grant in spring. Save yourself about $900 a year, $450 a semester, and that's going to be an easy state grant for anybody to receive. Now, I say that, those of you who live in Florida, Georgia, Mississippi area, please keep this in mind. Faulkner is not inherently more expensive for a student out of state versus in state. Our tuition is the same regardless of where your residence is. In fact, this is the only difference in financial aid when it comes to different residencies. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move on to federal aid. We understand that this is probably the most intimidating, but let's go ahead and keep it simple here. FAFSA, you probably heard your guidance counselor harp on this over and over again. There's a good reason for it. This is probably where most people leave money on the table, with an asterisk on there. And we're going to go ahead and get to that in just a moment. But let's think about the FAFSA in this way. It is one giant application with 5 different things that the government offers. So I'll say that one more time. It is one giant application for 5 different things that the government offers. The first is Pell Grant. This is free money, basically. SEOG, also potentially free money. Work study, and then Stanford Loans and Parent Plus loans. And maybe some of y'all just shut off right there. We'll dive into each one of these because each one of them is a tool that needs to be used correctly. So let us start off with how do you do it at FAFSA. For seniors right now, it's available to you. As of October 1st of this year, you're able to log on to studentaid.ed.gov, and you're able to go ahead and create both a student and a parent FSA ID. Please, please, please write this down. Save it about 3 different times. I kid you not, this is the thing that comes out more often than anything else. People lose their sign-in information. And here's the thing, you're gonna need this each year that you are in school. Even if you're just doing an associate degree for 2 years, you're gonna need this for at least 2 years. If you're doing a bachelor's, you're gonna need this for 4 years as well. So please, please keep this handy. Now, when you log in, what you're gonna be pretty much utilizing is your 2019 tax information for this particular year. Let me explain that a little deeper if you don't mind. So if you are a senior graduating in 2021 and entering college in the fall of 2021, basically the FAFSA is asking for your prior tax forms. So in this particular case, 2019. When you're redoing it again in 2022, then you are now using your 2020 tax information. And there's a lot of intricacies that go into that factor because, you know, this being a COVID year, some of you might be looking at a very different financial situation than you were in 2019. In fact, that is one of the questions we're going to bring up with the Director of Financial Aid later on this evening. But for the time being, let's progress as normal. So let's log on to studentaid.ed.gov. You're going to create your IDs, and you're going to go ahead and use your tax information to fill it out. For those of you who did your taxes electronically, you're in luck. There is a simple import where you could go ahead and do this automatically. For those of you like me who did not, well, it is a little bit longer of a process, about 35, 40 minutes, but I promise you it is going to be the best 35, 40 minutes worth spent. So again, let's dive into these different categories here of the FAFSA money available. The first is Pell. This is free money from the government based off need. I'm going to get into the weeds here a little bit, but I promised I was going to break this down as simple as possible. So here we go. When the government is looking at your tax form, they're going to go ahead and give you something called EFC. In fact, those of you who have already done your FAFSA, you may have gotten an email regarding this. EFC stands for Estimated Family Contribution. This is, in their perception, how much money a family ought to be able to contribute to their son or daughter's education. I say perception for a good reason. Unfortunately, in the real world, sometimes this money is being utilized to pay for cars. Or if you're running your own business, this is help keeping that business afloat. Trust me, as an individual who's been there, done that, I'm very much aware that what they are anticipating is not always reality. However, their perception is our reality. So let's break it down even further from there. They're looking at an estimated family contribution. The threshold is 0 to 6,000, roundabout. 0 to 6,000. If your EFC is 0, then the government is qualifying you for full Pell. That means you get the maximum amount of money that the government will give you for free. For this particular year, it's estimated to be about $6,395. So your EFC 0, that is $6,000 of free money available to you as long as you've done your FAFSA, as long as you did your FAFSA, pardon me. But what about the higher threshold? Well, the closer you get to 6,000, the less help you get from the government. Any folks over that 6,000 mark would not be receiving any type of Pell money. However, this is another reason why it's important. Let me bring in the Faulkner difference one more time. So at Faulkner, there is potential to get need-based scholarships in the form of a university grant. And a quick explanation is as following. We look at the charges of Faulkner's semester: tuition, room, and board. Then we look at the scholarships that you qualify for us, and then we look at the scholarships you qualify for the government. And we have an honest conversation. Is there something we can do to help out their family and the need that they have? The government may have this qualify for them, but is there something we can do and still keep the lights on at the same time? And so we provide something called university grants. So families, if you think you are overqualified for Pell money, please, I would still encourage you to do this anyways. In fact, especially if you're an athlete, this is still needed to be done because we need to make sure every dollar from other sources are going to be available to you. But please look into the possibility of getting Pell for sure. It is something that's going to be very helpful. For those of you who do miss out, I feel you. I've been there before. When I graduated, when I was a senior in high school, my family had an EFC of 3,100. Back then, the cutoff was 3,000. It was heartbreaking to be told that the government's saying we make too much money. We don't want finances to be the reason why a student cannot come to Faulkner, especially if they love it. If they feel like they could grow here both spiritually and academically, we want to do everything we can. So we would be more than happy to have deeper conversations. And when we reach the pavement of we've extended our opportunities, we'll have that conversation. But until then, please ask questions. All right, let's move along here. So the next step is SEOG. SEOG is specifically connected to Pell money. If you qualify for Pell, even if it was $10 of it, you automatically qualify for SEOG. It's also free, but here's the catch. It is first come, first serve. Again, this is another reason why you want to make sure you do your FAFSA early. At Faulkner, us being a smaller university, it allows us to hold on to it a little longer than most, but I promise you, you don't want to roll those dice. You want to go ahead and take care of your FAFSA just as soon as possible. So if you get the Pell money, you also get a SEOG, and that is estimated to be an extra $1,000 if you're living on campus. So a quick example, if you have a 0 EFC, you got full Pell, $6,000 or so, and then you did your FAFSA early enough for another $1,000, that is $7,000 just for taking 30 minutes out of your day to do the FAFSA. So please, please, please go ahead and utilize the tools available to you. Now, work study is slightly different. Work study is not necessarily free money, and you may qualify for work study, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. So first things first, work study is not a 20-hour-a-week job. Not much of hours are really available to you anyways, but it is something. In fact, the government is allowing you to make up to $1,800 a year. $900 a semester. Now, realistically speaking, there's a lot of factors involved with that, whether your employer, whether it be the school library or maintenance or any other thing, any other department like that, how many hours they have available to them. However, depending on those hours and also how much you utilize is going to be determinant of what your actual paycheck is. And here's another way that work study is different. It doesn't necessarily have to be applied to your balance for the school. This is money in your own pocket. You could go to B-dubs. You could go ahead and gas up your tank. You can do whatever you want with this money. But again, as a person who's been there, done that, if I can encourage you, maybe go ahead and just take 10% of it and apply it to whatever your balance is. But again, work study is a tool available to you. If you qualify for it, it is money in your back pocket. You can utilize however you want to. But if you qualify for it, there is an application that needs to be done. Every school does that slightly different. But for Faulkner, we do require an application, and most schools really do. So, all right. Very quickly, we're going to move on to Stanford Loans. And I know that is a very dirty word. In some ways it is. But let me go ahead and also give a little bit of realist here. So a little something about me. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, born and raised, proud of it. And I did not go to a small school by any means. My high school was 5,000 plus. My graduation class was 830. We actually graduated in the Alamo Dome where the Spurs played at. So it was very easy to get lost in the crowd. Now, that said, to kind of stack on top of that, I was the first in my family to go to college. My dad was a Marine. My mom, bless her, worked 2 jobs most of my childhood just to make sure I had an opportunity that neither one of them had. And so when we started looking at colleges, we weren't quite sure what questions to ask. So let me make this promise to you right here, right now. I want to be the person I wish I had. I want to make sure that I'm able to go ahead and reach out to you guys the way I wish somebody would have reached out to me back in the day. And I go ahead and stand by this for every admissions counselor here. They want to help you. We're biased. We want you here at Faulkner, but we understand you got other schools as well. So we can help make sense of this. We will at least do that for you. Now, going back to the topic on hand about loans. So there are 3 types of loans out there in the education world. There are private loans, there are Parent Plus loans, and then there are student Stanford loans. We'll quickly discuss each one of them. So the Stanford loan is kind of the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. At least that's the way I like to put it. This is made up of a couple of different parts. One is subsidized, one is unsubsidized. Basically, quick definition, subsidized means that portion, you don't have to worry about the interest rates. Government's taking care of it for you. I'll say that again. Subsidized loans, you don't have to worry about the interest rates. The government will take care of it for you. Unsubsidized does have a little bit of interest rates attached to it as of now. In fact, as of now, the interest rates are probably the lowest they've been in a decade. That's probably the one good thing out of COVID these days. The interest rates have dropped because of it, somewhere around the 2.9 to 3.2 percentage rate there. But those two categories combined equal up to about $5,500 for your freshman year. Now, this is available to you. It doesn't mean you've got to use it. But let me break it down to you this way. $3,500 is the part that is subsidized. So for a family who is just a little hesitant about loans, but it feels like in all reality, it's going to have to be part of the equation, just like me, then that's going to end up being the case. I would recommend look at the subsidized loans. Look at the $3,500 where you don't have to worry about the interest rates. That way it can make the semester just a little cheaper. But again, for me, I needed to utilize all the financial aid available to me in every form and fashion. So one good thing to know is that each year, freshman year, you start off with $5,500, but the following year, it increases to $6,500, and your junior and senior year, $7,500. And the purpose for that is to make sure you're able to go ahead and get up with the inflation going on too. So inflation each year kind of increases. This kind of compensates for that inflation going on. So that is Stanford Loans in a nutshell. Now, moving on, there are some other loan options available. Parent Plus loans, again, still the government. This is still the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Basically, it comes down to this. Let's say you still need additional loans on top of the $5,500. May I suggest a Parent Plus loan for this reason? No matter what happens during the application process, the student's still getting money, but it happens in 1 of 2 ways. Here's the first way. The parent applies, as the name suggests, and they look at the parent's credit. If the parent is good, the government's saying, hey, mom, dad, we like your credit. We're going to give you the amount you need to cover your child's balance. Here's the catch there. it is underneath the parent's name. So when the student graduates, by the way, quick note real fast about the Stanford loans, you don't have to repay those until 6 months after graduation. So 6 months after you graduate, that's when they're going to go ahead and start sending you small bills about paying those back. Same thing kind of applies here to the Parent Plus loans, except when the parents approve, they would rather the parents start making payments right away. However, there is paperwork to make a request to put it off for those same 6 months after graduation as the Stanford loans. Now, again, that is if the parent is approved based off good credit. What if it's bad credit? My freshman year, my mom had good credit, but after some medical issues in my family, we tried again and we were denied. What happened then? Well, the following happened. They said, "Mom, I'm sorry," Miss Lucy is my mom's name. "Miss Lucy, we apologize. We're not going to be able to preview for this Parent Plus loan, but this is what we will do. We will give Matt an additional $4,000 of his Stanford loans to utilize. Same rules apply. 6 months after graduation, we'll be happy to go ahead and start taking repayment. That way he can use his new salary to make those payments." A couple of other factors about both the Stanford and the Parent Plus loan. These are, as I mentioned, time sensitive after graduation or 6 months after you're done with school. But on top of that, you got to keep in mind that students, this is between you and the government. At least the Stanford loan is. This is between you and the government. Mom, dad are not co-signers. So they're going to go ahead and look at you first rather than a parent. The one exception would be if the Parent Plus loan was approved, then parents, you are on the docket for that one as well. I know that could be kind of clear as mud. I see that Olivia's answering some great questions here. I definitely want to dive into those a little here later on when I have a moment to catch my breath. I do talk fast. Sorry about that. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one and kind of wrap this up so we can hear from Victoria and then from Adam as well tonight. So this is what you're probably curious about the most: scholarships from school, aka institutional awards. These come in the form of scholarships and grants, and they vary from school to school. And so while I cannot speak about other schools, let me take this opportunity to talk about Faulkner scholarships. First and foremost, there are academic awards available, and these do often stack with both extracurricular scholarships such as band, choir, and the like, and most athletic scholarships as well. There is an asterisk there. There are some top tier positions that coaches are offering where those won't be able to combine. We'll be happy to navigate those waters with you to make sure you understand it all. But let's talk about those academic awards very briefly. So currently, to be accepted at Faulkner, it is very different because of COVID. We are offering test optional scores. However, there is a lot of opportunities to be had with you turning in an ACT. So here they are right quick. If you have an 18 or a 19, you are automatically qualified for the Dean Scholarship and also more than likely going to be able to be accepted with us. $8,000 a year, so over 4 years, that's going to equal up to $32,000, which is not a bad chunk of change. But for most families, this is just going to be the starting piece of the conversation. Now, if you have somewhere between a 20 and 24 of your ACT, the $9,000 or the presidential scholarship is available to you, followed by 25 to 29 tier. That is our trustee scholarship valued at $10,000. And those of you who are the brainiacs, who we definitely look up to and love, ACT 30 plus is a $12,000 founder scholarship. But I will say this, we do have some full tuition opportunities as well, but they are first come, first serve. And we will talk about some of the ways you could go ahead and kind of submit your name for that. Now, a couple of other things to kind of keep in mind about these academic awards for Faulkner anyways. We want to be flexible. We are a small institution and we understand that life happens. And so we will gladly work with you between now and school starting in August. I've done it before. It's not fun, but if a student told me 2 days before classes started, we would do everything we can to make sure that they are here with the normal academic award that they would have been receiving anyways. That said, it really, really helps to give you plenty of time to have these conversations with us. Now, moving on down, speaking of other institutional awards, there are some other things you want to keep in mind. The outside scholarships, the ones with extracurriculars such as band, choir. We even have bass fishing here. When it comes to sports, we have men and women's golf. We have co-ed cheerleading. We have men and women's basketball, baseball, softball, soccer for both men and women. We have football as well. The list kind of goes on. And proud to announce first tonight, we haven't been able to do this on a live segment yet, but we are having our very own EA Sports team beginning next year. Now, we are starting fresh. There's not many details as of right now, but if you are a gamer, if you are somebody that likes to go ahead and be behind the controller, we are looking to go ahead and have a conversation with you. We are offering scholarships for that as well. So please reach out to us later on this evening, sometime this week. We'd love to start having those talks with you. Let me see here. Oh, what is the minimum and maximum amount you're eligible with a band scholarship? This one I have to catch. So that does vary by your audition. So if you go to our official faulkner.edu website, under the band section, there is a quick description about what goes into an audition. I've known the director there, Dr. Stephen Foster, for some years. Me and his daughter actually went to school together. He is a very, very friendly and very flexible director. He definitely wants to work with you and get to know what your talent and what your skill level is. And he would be more than happy to go ahead and have an honest conversation with you, and a helpful one as well. So please reach out to us about setting up that audition if you would, because it does vary. It could be as low as $1,000 or as high as $5,000. With the contingency that you are a music major, that you're involved with other music criteria as well. But please, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth when it comes to that. I'd much rather leave it to the experts. Now, a couple of other scholarships as well. Want to make sure that we give the coaches plenty of time. I do know volleyball and for baseball, they look pretty early, and also basketball, they look pretty early, almost 2 years in advance about the students they want. So we want to make sure that we get you in front of those coaches sooner rather than later. All right. Last but not least, and we're going to go ahead and start rounding out this conversation tonight, is the importance of outside contributions and outside criteria. Remember this, you're the one that's going to benefit from your education, and that education is investment. You are the best thing you could ever put money towards. That said, I know you want to go ahead and be as safe as possible. I think there's a middle ground to be found there, because don't feel like you got to do this all in one take. In fact, don't feel like you got to do this all by yourself. When you graduate, I promise you, your dear auntie, she's going to give you a check for about $25, $50. Keep that handy. If you're working right now, save 10 to 15, maybe even 20% of your paycheck for whatever goal you have for college. When you graduate, if you're a member of a church, don't be surprised if they throw you a graduation party. And those parties usually come with cards with a little bit of cash in there. Please, please, please don't be like me and blow it on eating. That's exactly what I did. I ate so much that summer. I went out to eat with my friends to try to live it up one last summer. And I don't necessarily regret the memories, but I also could have gone ahead and been a little bit more frugal with the things I ordered there. So please, there's a lot of things that add up. But the one thing I want to call your attention to the most are outside scholarships. Please do not sleep on these. On the screen right now, you see various websites where you could go ahead and create a profile. My recommendation, go ahead and create a free email account just for scholarships, because they're going to bombard you, and it's going to feel like spam, because to a degree it is. But I promise you, these are going to be worthwhile to do. Let me go ahead, and as you're kind of copying down or screenshotting these websites, let me just share one brief story to kind of wrap up this part of the convo. We had a student here about 5 years back. It was a young lady, and her full-time job from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. was applying for outside scholarships, whether it be the ones online or the ones in her local county. When it was all said and done, she got back to us and she told us that she did over 300 applications, and she only heard back from about 12, maybe 15 tops. That's kind of disheartening if you think about that. 300 applications, all that time, and only hearing back from 12 to 15. But there's the other side of that story. Between Faulkner scholarships, the little bit of government money she was getting, and these outside scholarships, she had her entire 4 years taken care of. She had nothing out of pocket that she needed to worry about. So there are two things to take into account here. One, there's a lot that goes into trying to win these awards. But man, is it worth it if you take that time. Thanksgiving just passed. Christmas is just around the corner. These are prime times to go ahead and put these applications in. So please do that. We do know that there are a lot of great faces that you see at the schools. We send out brochures, we send out pamphlets, and something can look perfect on paper. But if I can encourage you, take the time to visit. Look for that X factor, because something could be perfect on paper, but when you actually get there, it's not quite what you thought. And we want you to get to know us, and we want you to get to see our faces, even with a mask, sooner rather than later, so we could go ahead and have discussions. So if you don't mind, I want to kind of change things up here. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our fellow admissions counselor, Victoria. Again, she is actually also a graduate of Faulkner as well. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her up right now. Hey, Victoria, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing so good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, we are kind of, making this a quick little session tonight. I threw a lot at the parents tonight. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. But I want them to go ahead and hear from a student's perspective, somebody who just recently graduated. Looking back at it, were your 4 years here at Faulkner worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I tell people all the time, I can't imagine calling another place home for 4 years. And being a 2020 graduate, I feel like it's especially important for me where I graduated from, seeing how Faulkner has navigated everything in the past year and truly just made me feel like I'm at home, away from home. And so the value of my Faulkner education, but not only my education, my experience here has been something I would pay for tenfold.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So when you're recruiting new students, I bet that feels weird being on the other side of the table when it comes to recruiting students. But when you are recruiting, what is the one thing you hope they walk away from with their Faulkner experience?
I hope they walk away from just a Faulkner experience knowing how wonderful the people are here, how much they want you to succeed. That's something that I try to communicate to all of my students that I work with. I have not had a professor here that hasn't helped me in some way to succeed in my classes, to succeed outside of my classes. The connections that I've made here because of my professors is just incredible. I'm thinking of so many different instances where I've gotten networking opportunities, job connections, internship opportunities just by having a conversation with my professors. So if there's one thing that I hope you take away, it's just that the people here want you to succeed, and there's nothing more special than that.
Well, if I remember right, my first year here as admissions counselor was the year you were being recruited. And in that time frame, now correct me if I'm wrong, were you part of Scholars Day by any chance?
I was.
So I'm noticing a question here by Miss Sonia. Miss Sonia is asking, hey, we're interested about that full scholarship opportunity. We have 3 different windows of opportunity where we try to offer that to students. One in the fall, it's kind of a first come, first serve by the best qualification there. But the middle one is one that has, I think, the best chance for a student, and that's through Scholars Day. Would you mind taking a quick moment and explain what Scholars Day is about?
So Scholars Day is basically an interview process where we invite certain students with certain criteria that they meet to come on campus and interview with different professors from the discipline that they're choosing. So say you want to go into biology, you're going to be interviewing with one of our science professors. And that's a really cool opportunity for, number one, for you to meet people who are also interested in Faulkner and looking at coming here, but also to get in touch with your potential professors and meet them and have a conversation with them. And it's like an interview. They're going to ask you a lot of questions about who you are, what you're going to be doing, what is your goal. I remember my Scholars Day, I interviewed with someone who had majored in liberal arts. And so since I was considering that, it was really awesome for me to see a broader opportunity within liberal arts that I could do so many different things with. And so then you'll hear back a couple of weeks later about your scholarship that you'll receive from Scholars Day, but that's just another opportunity to increase your scholarship. And it's a really good opportunity for you to come see campus, meet people, and just get connected.
Speaking of getting connected and meeting people, if I'm not mistaken, that's where quite a few people get to meet their future roommates. Yeah. They get to connect. And honestly, any place you go, it's kind of rolling the dice about who your roommate's going to be. Guys, let me go ahead and encourage you. If you haven't yet applied, please actually message me. I'm going to go ahead and throw up my email here once Adam comes up and joins us. And I'd love to go ahead and offer any student right now who's watching who hasn't applied a free application. We want to go ahead and give you that opportunity. Now, those of you who have already applied, let me make it up to you this way. If you come visit, let me treat you to lunch. Let us treat you to walking around campus. We really want to get to know you. But let's go ahead and make sure that you apply today. I'm going to go ahead and provide that information in just a moment. In fact, Olivia, if you happen to hear this, maybe you could put that in our chat box as well, our official website and link to apply. And we will be more than happy to email you a promo code if you email me later on today. But that said, speaking of, again, connecting, the people here really do make the difference. I think you get to interact with them. One of the professors that we love being a part of Scholars Day is Dr. Elsa Price. So those of you who are interested in biology or health sciences, shout out to you. You'll probably get to know her. And don't be surprised if one day she shows up at your wedding, even if you were not invited, and she will take a selfie with you. Isn't that right, Victoria?
Yes, absolutely. I have so many selfies with Dr. Price.
Well, Victoria, is there any last minute words that you would like to say to the families, whether it be from financial aid standpoint, Faulkner standpoint, or just maybe your own students? In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think we got a viewer from Ohio here tonight who you're going to be working with. Would you like to say anything to them?
Yeah, my number one thing when I was looking at a school is, like I've said this 1,000 times already, I wanted a place that I knew I was going to be able to call home. And the best way to do that is by coming and visiting, but also just by getting in touch with your admissions counselor, getting to know them, know their experience that they've had here, either working or as a student. A lot of our admissions counselors have been students here or have been connected to the university for a number of years in some way. So get to know them, get to learn why they're here, why they're working here. I think that was one of the biggest things for me when I was getting to know my admissions counselor is, why is she here? Why did she decide to stick around? And we actually have a very similar story. So there's a reason that I'm here. There's a reason that you're here, Matt. There's a reason we're doing all of this, and we're doing it for the glory of God. And there's no greater feeling than that. So just find a place that you can call home, and we will do all the rest of the work for you. So that's all I have. If you have anything else.
Yeah, we're actually going to go switch gears here. This is officially overtime now. We're going to bring on Adam here for more intricate questions. So families, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type in our chat box. We'd love to go ahead and answer a few of them here. But Victoria, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Yeah.
Y'all. Whoop, cut her off. Sorry about that, Victoria. I hope she doesn't get mad later on. But hey, guys, to my left over here is the one and the only Mr. Adam Donaldson. Man, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and switch up something right quick. All right. I think people can probably hear us a little bit better now. So
how about that?
Yeah.
Test 1, 2.
Yeah, but you probably still want to speak up nonetheless. Well, Adam, I appreciate you being here. You're
Sure.
wearing a couple of hats tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, I left fourth grade basketball practice to come speak to you guys. So maybe what I can bring you is beneficial.
Well, I think that is something nobody should be surprised about here at Faulkner, is that so many of our faculty, so many of our staff are very family orientated. You know, our families are intertwined with Faulkner and our sister school, ACA here. And there's a lot of things that we'd like to reach out to the community about. In fact, just very briefly, as I'm kind of preparing some of my questions here, how'd you get connected with Faulkner? What's your history with us?
I actually went to Alabama Christian. So K through 12 at the little private school that's directly behind Faulkner. Growing up, I always said I was never, ever going to Faulkner. Wasn't going to do it. I spent 1 year at a sister institution about 4 hours north of here, and really missed the close connections that I had made at my smaller private high school. Came back to Montgomery, kind of contemplated whether college year number 2 was going to happen or not. During the summer, hooked up with some folks that were actually students here, worked in the admissions office of all things. And they convinced me to apply and go on and start my second college career here at Faulkner. And I never left. I did my 3.5 years here, and came back to work here, some 7 or 8 years after graduation. And have just enjoyed it. Really enjoy the friendships that you make here, the relationships where they just last a lifetime, and it's one of those that you couldn't wash it off, couldn't rub it off. So here I am.
Well, I'm glad you are here. So if you don't mind, let me jump into kind of the more complicated questions.
Sure.
So for instance, I alluded earlier, with COVID going on, unfortunately, it is impacting families harder than most things when it comes to their finances. And the government is asking for 2019 tax information, but 2020 has clearly been a very different year. What opportunities do families have if they're trying to figure out if they qualify for something now that their finances are different?
Right. Good question. So what Matt's alluding to, when you fill out your 21-22 FAFSA, they're asking for 2019 tax information. We all know a majority of us have been hit very, very hard as far as income during this COVID year. And so your 2019 taxes may not accurately depict what your current cash flow situation is. When those situations arise, we try to take them case by case. And I don't know if Matt alluded to the EFC. EFC is when you do your FAFSA, it spits out a number called an EFC. That is your estimated family contribution. What that means is that's their way of determining how much your family can contribute to your college education. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the formula they come up with, so that's what we're bound to use by the government. But that number doesn't always, like I said, depict the current situation of your financial representation. So what they have allowed us to do is take what we call a professional judgment. And the way that works is you basically complete the 2019 or 21-22, a lot of numbers going on, 21-22 FAFSA. Complete it with the information that it's asking for, the 2019 tax information. If there's a major difference that you feel like needs another look, if my income was cut in half from 2019 to 2020, I may want somebody to look at that. That may affect my Pell money. That may affect my eligibility for different things. So we absolutely want to take a look at it. What we ask is that you just submit information to your admissions counselor, just saying, hey, I'd like a professional judgment on this. And then we'll be in touch with you. Financial aid will get in touch. We'll request. We've got a few forms that we like to see. We just want to dig a little bit deeper. We want to see what's going on and see how we can better help you. Sometimes it makes a difference and sometimes it doesn't, but we don't know until we get in there. We can kind of recalculate some numbers to see what your potential EFC would be if we were to make the different changes. So there's some good things out there, and it really helps suit the needs of the potential students and families. So
I appreciate you sharing that, because if there is anything you take away from this evening, it's this, I hope, is that there's always multiple ways to go about a goal. It might look intimidating. It might be a big wall to scale, but please don't feel like you got to take it on by yourself. We would be more than happy to hear you out. And I'm not saying we have all the answers, but we could definitely figure it out together, because we've been around for a while now. We've interacted with several different families, and there's very little that you could do to surprise us these days. And I don't want to take that as a challenge, but yet we do want to go ahead and challenge you to reach out to us if you have more intricate questions. Now, maybe go ahead, and as we're kind of looking at the time here, and don't want to keep the families too much longer tonight, we want to go ahead and make sure that they know what are the things, some of the traps that families fall into sometimes. If you're looking the way we interact with families, what is just one big piece of advice you could give a family right now when it comes to financial aid?
Moms and dads, if you can, be involved in this beginning process for your student. We see a lot of times the student hits the dead end because mom and dad maybe have fear of participating in this FAFSA. It can pry into some information. We get it. We totally get it. Sometimes we want everybody to see the information. Participate as best you can for your student. They're going to need that information to be able to access all sorts of financial aid for their education. So participate in that. Other roadblocks is time. The sooner, the better with all of this information. Fill out your FAFSA as soon as you can. Matt alluded to several scholarships and awards and financial aid opportunities that are out there. They're first come, first serve. If you take anything from this, do it and do it first. Go and get it done. That way, if you come up with problems, you can reach out to us early on. We can get them solved for you, or at least get you pointed in the right direction. So participate, do it fast, do it early, do it often. But yeah, go and get it knocked out. That way we can get you in the pipeline. You can see what your financial aid snapshot looks like. So,
Adam, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot here in a moment, and I'm going to answer a question as you're kind of getting it ready. Yeah. One thing that we are very open about is communication here. At the end of the segment, I'll be more than happy to provide my phone number. In fact, I'll do it right now. 334-386-7128. 334-386-7128. That's my office number. You wouldn't mind getting ready to share yours as well. But one thing I wanted to go ahead and realize I needed to go back about and talk about Scholars Day and the full tuition question. Ms. Sonia, you got some great questions here, by the way. So Scholars Day is an opportunity to get a student to full tuition. It does not stack on top of full tuition. It helps a student get to full tuition. And in our closing segments here, I want to go ahead and maybe help frame the difference between a price and a value, because I think there is a huge difference between those two concepts of price and value. But just to go ahead and clarify there, Scholars Day is a way to get to the full tuition. But brother, if you wouldn't mind sharing your phone number.
Sure. Area code 334-386-7195. 386-7195. That'll get the financial aid office. And my voice prompt is very easy to find. It is my voice with my name as Adam Donaldson. So I'm not even sure what number you select to get to me, but that's how you get to me. It brings straight to my desk. So 334-386-7195. Give me a shout if we can help.
Sorry about the coughing. It kind of deafed you there for a little bit.
Yeah. So going back to FAFSA, this is a worthless hint, worthless tip, but we hear it mispronounced all the time. FAFSA. If you were to say the word laugh and put SA at the end, that's a LAFSA. Same way with FAFSA. It's a FAFSA. So you're one up on everybody else. So when you hear them say FAFSA, just correct them. You'll be one step ahead.
Fair enough. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being here
absolutely.
with us tonight. I thank y'all so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining in. And like Matt said, if we can ever be of assistance, give us a shout. Financial aid office, admissions office. We know you've got competition out there. We're not the only school trying to get after you. But if we can help you along the way navigate some of this, by all means, let us help. Be glad to.
So to our viewers who have stuck around for the extra innings here, let me go ahead and bring out a couple of different things to bring up. One is this. I know this is a general conversation that we've had here tonight. We want to make it as specific as possible. In fact, when I work with families, what I like to do is put very plainly all the charges for a single semester. Yes, your school year is a year, obviously, but most schools charge by semester. Faulkner is included in that. Another difference with Faulkner is that we do not charge a family before the school year begins. We actually charge that in October of that particular year. So we want to go ahead and make sure that you've got plenty of time and plenty of road work, basically, to lead you to that goal you may have. So when you are working towards that, we want to break it up in two pieces, as I mentioned several times today. And we want to make sure you understand what your specific charges are. Then we are going to subtract specifically your financial aid. The government, the institutional, and everything in between. We're going to put it all in a middle section there. And then we're going to look at a final bottom line. And we're going to have an open discussion. How you feel about it? Do you feel comfortable with it? And again, there will be a point where we do need to keep the lights on and we are not able to offer too much more assistance without taking away from another student. However, we'll be at least willing to have the conversation. So please reach out to your admissions counselor to have that specific conversation. But let me just bring up this one point to kind of make that difference a little bit more visible between a price and a value. So again, please keep in mind this is slightly out of context. Before financial aid is applied, the cost, the sticker price for a meal plan here is about $1,800, if I'm not mistaken. Probably a little bit more this semester, but about $1,800. That's a good chunk of change, no lie. I mean, if I was asking any family for that, if anybody was asking me for that, I'd be very, very upset about that, or at least intimidated about how I'm going to cover that. But let me break this up into two different thought processes here. One, the more time you give yourself, the more that becomes much more manageable. But two, let me also put it to you this way. Our CAF is all you can eat. And when you look at the meal plans and you break it up for each individual meal that equals to that price tag, each individual meal comes out to about $6.75. So for the price tag of going to McDonald's or to Zaxby's or whatever your favorite fast food restaurant is, you could actually have a all-you-can-eat buffet here with us instead. I'm promising you, when it comes to Sunday, you want to be there for the fried chicken. When it comes to Thursdays, you want to be there for the cinnamon rolls. And any day, you want to be there for the ice cream and the icing machines. So just a quick perspective. Yes, the cost definitely it makes you wonder, like, well, hey, what am I getting out of this? And I can say this wholeheartedly, you're getting a lot out of it. And that's just the meals here. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to see the dorms, to see the academic and the classes. And so, yes, I want to make sure you know and you feel you're getting your money's worth when it comes to Faulkner education. Well, guys, thank you again so much for being with us here tonight. I do talk fast sometimes. It is because I am passionate and I want to help you out as much as possible. I want to be the person I wish I had. And so if you found this helpful, please reach out to us. If you feel like you have more questions than answers, reach out to us anyways. We want to go ahead and make sure we dig through that together. Thank you so much. If you have not applied, don't forget to email me so I can go ahead and give you a free promo code in the next 24 hours to make that happen. And again, applying does not commit you to a school. It just lets you know that we're really, really interested in you. So thank you so much, guys. God bless. Take care.